Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Ward 6 City Hall Community Meeting. My name is Christine McNulty. I'm the city's Community Engagement Specialist. Before we begin, I would like to note that bathrooms are just out in this hallway to the right. There's pizza and refreshments over here. There's copies of the slide presentation here at the front, and there's a bunch of other materials for various city departments, so check those out. At this time, I would like to welcome Councilor Lance Davis.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you all. I'm Lance Davis, Ward 6 Councilor. I want to acknowledge that we have City Councilor at Large, Jake Wilson, here, as well as our Ward 6 School Committee member, Eleanor Barish. I assume Jake is a candidate for mayor. I assume that all the other at-large city councilors are at the Somerville Stands Together at Large forum tonight, so we'll understand their, yes, am I not getting it? Sorry. Is that better? Okay. So I was just acknowledging the folks in the room and also acknowledging that others of my at-large colleagues are likely at the Somerville Stands Together forum, which is happening at the same time. It's impossible to find an open night to schedule stuff, so we just we do our best. On that note, I'll apologize in advance. I'm going to scoot out about 7:30 because I coach a youth hockey team that has practice at 8, and I want to keep my obligation to them. I got to talk to a bunch of you beforehand, but as always, shoot me a text, shoot me an email. If you shoot me an email and I don't respond, shoot me a text because I didn't ignore it. I just missed it. That happens. But text is a really good way to reach me, or give me a call, or grab me at any one of the other number of meetings that we have seemingly regularly here. So that's all I have to say. I'll leave it to the folks that you really want to hear from. But yeah, thanks for being here. Good to see y'all.
Thank you so much, Councilor. So for the meeting format, after each presentation, we will take 2 questions. We have a microphone available for audience questions, so please raise your hand and wait for the microphone before asking your questions. If we don't get to your question initially, please hold on to it. At the completion of all presentations, we will open up into a general Q&A. Please note that during the open Q&A, we would like to give everyone the opportunity to ask a question. I will do my best to prioritize members of the audience who have not yet had a chance to ask a question on the microphone. If we don't get your question tonight at all, you can email cm@somervillema.gov, and we'll make sure that we get your comment directed to the appropriate department. Tonight's meeting is being recorded. The meeting recordings will be available online at the conclusion of our meeting series and posted on the City TV government YouTube channel. And so with that, I have a few quick updates before we dive into the main presentations. So the Somerville Public Library Strategic Planning Survey is open until Friday, October 10th. You can fill out the survey by scanning this QR code or by visiting somervillepubliclibrary.org. A reminder that Somerville's municipal election will take place on Tuesday, November 4th. On this slide are various deadlines for registering to vote, submitting vote-by-mail applications, as well as blue box locations for dropping off vote-by-mail ballots. For all election information, please visit somervillema.gov/elections. And if you are looking to get involved, Elections is looking for poll workers. They make $240 for the day, and if you're interested, you can email hradmin@somervillema.gov to apply. On September 19th, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey signed the proposed new City of Somerville Charter. For the November election, 2 ballot questions will allow voters to decide whether to accept the charter and whether to extend the mayoral term. We have information about the new charter up here at the front. And if you're looking for more information, you can visit somervillema.gov/charter review. In collaboration with the Mobility, Parking, and Fire departments, the Engineering Division has been improving signals throughout the city. In particular, we are executing a key goal of the administration's fiscal year 26 budget to upgrade our traffic signals with a location-based emergency vehicle preemption system. Accessibility is also equally important. We are in the process of installing 200 accessible crossing signs with the street name in raised text and braille. We are also actively upgrading our pedestrian signals with accessible push buttons and countdown timers. The Engineering Division is leading efforts to repair and update drainage, sewer, and water utilities under streets, under Morrison Ave and surrounding streets. The project will significantly expand our system's capacity, bringing a range of benefits to the neighborhood, and most notably a reduction in flooding. You can visit the project website for updates on the design process as we move towards an expected construction start in summer 2027. Since December 2024, the Somerville Office of Immigrant Affairs has held over 150 Know Your Rights trainings for community members. The SOIA staff are unfortunately unable to make it this evening, but if you are looking for more information on the Know Your Rights trainings, or basically any of the work that our wonderful Office of Immigrant Affairs is doing, you can visit somervillema.gov/SOIA or scan this QR code here. If you are currently a caregiver, the Somerville Council on Aging has resources for you and your family. The COA offers a caregiver support group, educational resources from partner organizations, and other forms of group support. You can learn more by emailing Molly Pagliuca by email at mpagliuca@somervillema.gov or by calling the phone number listed here on the slide. The Somerville Climate Ambassador Program is designed to empower Somerville residents to take action on climate change in their community. If you're looking for an opportunity to learn something new, get more involved in your community, or meet new people, consider applying to become a climate ambassador. You can scan the QR code here or visit somervillema.gov/CFA to apply. Applications are open until December 1st. There's a lot to do in Somerville, and tonight we want to highlight some upcoming events. We have Summer Street's Monster Mash planned for Sunday, October 19th from 2 to 6 p.m., and the annual Truck or Treat will be held on Thursday, October 23rd, starting at 5 p.m. at the City Hall Concourse. And finally, you can stay up to date with all things City of Somerville by subscribing to our weekly newsletter or by following us here on social media. You can find the newsletter by using the QR code here on this slide or by visiting somervillema.gov/subscribe. On this webpage, you will find a list of other departments that all have their own newsletters, and we welcome you to subscribe to any and all that might interest you. So we have reached the conclusion of the quick updates portion. Thank you, and I would like to welcome Mayor Ballantyne to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to ask a few open-ended questions at the beginning, as I do every time, so we get a sense of who's in the room. Would you raise your hand if this is your very first City Hall community meeting? Welcome. Excellent. Thank you for coming. Would you raise your hand if you've lived here 1 year or less? Okay, you really jumped in the first year. Awesome. If you've lived here between 1 and 2 years, raise your hand. 2 and 5 years, raise your hand. Okay. Between 5 and 10? 10 and 15? 15 and 20? Between 20 and 30? Okay. Over 30? Okay, so we make up the majority. Now, if you've lived here, or the highest number who raised their hand, if you've lived here your entire life, raise your hand. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. If you have children who attend the Somerville Public School or who have, that graduated, raise your hand. Okay. If you use public transportation as your primary mode of getting around the city or around the Boston area, raise your hand. Okay. If you walk primarily as your primary mode, okay. If you ride your bike, okay. If you use your car, okay, great. And if you've walked on the community path in the last 2 weeks, raise your hand. Okay, wonderful. Is there any question anybody would like to ask just to get to know who's in the... Yes, Paul. Ron, excuse me.
I had a question actually for the previous presentation.
So we're going to take those questions at the end, but just like to get to know one another.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question. So if you visit a Davis Square business more than 3 times a week, raise your hand. Okay, awesome. If you're going to attend Monster Mash, raise your hand. Okay, great. Okay, thank you. So next up, we have city staff here who are with us this evening. I'm going to ask a staff member from each department to stand up. identify themselves and the department they're from. Why? Because sometimes you all have to leave early and you might have a question for a particular department. So I want you to be able to go to them earlier before you have to leave and be able to ask the question. So I'm going to ask the one member from each department to stand up and introduce yourself. And why don't we start this way?
Good evening, my name is Ed Hardy with the Office of Constituent Services in 311 with my colleague Alex Ferris.
Jim Dunn, Deputy Chief of the Somerville Police Department. I also have in the back row Captain Sean Sheehan, the Captain in charge of Patrol Operations.
I'm Russell Cody. I'm with the Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development's Housing Division, and my colleague Lisa Davidson is also here tonight.
Okay, so they need the mic. And honestly, staff, just the department, your name and the department. Thank you. One person from every department.
Hey everybody. Brad Rawson, Mobility Division.
Kevin Roach, Engineering Division.
Karen Carroll, HHS Health and Human Services.
Ellen Schachter, Office of Housing Stability.
Bill Fisher, Emergency Management.
Dan Bartman from the Planning Department.
Amanda Najim-Williams, Department of Racial and Social Justice.
Ashley Spiliotis, the Council on Aging.
Malik Drayton, Public Space and Urban Forestry.
Dana Whiteside, Economic Development.
Nick Salerno, Elections Department. Charlie Breen, Fire Department. Colin Ziegler, Inspectional Services Department, Health. Pete Filoramo, DPW.
Vivian Francois, Office of Immigrant Affairs.
Josh Eckert Lee, Sustainability and Environment.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, staff. So it's no surprise to any of us in Massachusetts that we're in the midst of a housing crisis. So this evening I'm going to talk about what's happening and what we're doing about it. What does it mean when we say there's a housing crisis? Well, according to the numbers, median home prices are rising far faster than our incomes. In fact, from 2000 to 2023, the median house prices rose in Massachusetts 73%. But the median household income rose only 4% when adjusted for inflation. Nearly 40% of households spend more than a third of their take-home pay on their rent or mortgage. For just under 20% of our neighbors, that number is more than half. That means over 7,000 Somerville families are one emergency away from displacement. A key reason this is happening is that we are creating jobs that draw workers, attract workers here in the greater Boston, Massachusetts area, but not creating enough housing to meet their demand. Here's the graph. Those housing prices and income stats that I just mentioned, look how the blue line that shows housing prices pulls away over time compared to the orange line that shows household income. And that's the troubling disconnect. The numbers also paint a stressful story. But what does it feel like to live through a housing crisis? Well, I'll tell you what I hear from residents in detail in Somerville. It feels like learning that your building is being sold and the rent is going to double. It feels like couples who want to expand their family but can't afford a larger living space. It feels like staying in an unsafe housing situation because there's no affordable alternative. It feels like leaving food in your grocery basket at the checkout because of your high rent. It feels like neighbors, classmates, or families are moving out of Somerville. The bottom line, we need more housing, and housing that we can all afford. Obviously, I know what the next question is, so what's Somerville doing about it? And the answer is really simple. We're doing everything. We're using every tool that we have, and we are creating new ones. And I'm just going to list through some examples of what we're doing. We're purchasing homes with nonprofits before they hit the market to keep those units affordable. We've launched a consolidated rental wait list, so you only need to submit one application for many of our inclusionary units. And we successfully fought for lower rental search fees at the State House, and will continue this kind of impactful advocacy work. I also want to highlight something important. A big portion of our housing work is supported by the Community Preservation Act. Last fall, Somerville voters overwhelmingly chose to double, we call that the CPA, the Community Preservation Act, surcharge from its minimum, which was 1.5%, to its legal maximum of 3%, bringing the total amount of CPA funding from $3 million to $6 million a year. And 55% of that CPA funds goes to affordable housing initiatives. You might ask, where does the other go? Well, the other 45% gets split with community preservation and with open space. The choice you made at the ballot box is bringing dollars that make real change possible here in Somerville. So I want to thank everybody who voted to make that happen. Our approach to housing is built on 3 key pillars. Make sure more housing is built, both market rate and affordable. Keep people in their homes, that's preventing displacement, and create homes that will be a good fit for those who need them most. And I'm going to walk through what this looks like. The need for more housing is a statewide issue. Massachusetts needs 222,000 new housing units by 2035. So that's in 10 years, to meet the demand according to the state data. So we're doing our part here in Somerville. We have close to 800 housing units in the direct pipeline right now. To put that into perspective, I'm going to ask the question, if you know how many housing units are currently in Somerville, no electeds get to answer this, or aspiring electeds, or staff who know the answer. And I do this just so you understand what the numbers mean and you put it into context. So does anybody have an idea of how many housing units in Somerville? That's a great number. It's 34,000 housing units. So just to remember, Somerville has 34,000 housing units, and the shortage is 222,000 housing units. I'm sorry, what did I say? Statewide, sorry. With CPA funds, we're adding, for example, 25 affordable apartments for elderly and disabled residents at Mystic Waterworks. That's on Alewife Brook Parkway, near Dilboy Stadium. 54 permanently affordable homes through our 100 Homes program, and 319 housing units are included, are planned, and there'll be 136 affordable units at 299 Broadway. That's for those of you who know the area on Winter Hill. That's the former Star Market site across from Winter Hill Brewery. We're also building forward with neighborhood scale plans. So we have some underutilized properties or areas in the city, so we have to plan out that, and we have done that and are continuing to do that. In August, we adopted the Assembly Square Neighborhood Plan, which aims to create between 3,000 to 5,700 new housing units. Of those, about 600 to 1,100 will be affordable apartments. Our Brick Bottom Plan, which is the area near Target on the other side of McGrath, the plan is done, and the zoning is in progress for that right now. That plan sets forth a path to building 400 to 625 new housing units, including affordable housing units. Let's also not forget the 100 Homes program. Since it started in 2015, we've partnered with our local nonprofit affordable housing developer, Somerville Community Corporation, to buy homes, and then we keep them permanently affordable. So far, we've kept 106 homes affordable this way. So back closer to home, here in Ward 6 and 7, this is a quick look at projects in the western part of Somerville. I won't run through the list, but as you can see, there's a lot underway, including the biggest, the Clarendon Hill housing at North Street. The first phase is going through its punch list. I will say I was there with some residents who are moving in yesterday, and it's basically taken us nearly a decade to get there. Totally, beside thrilled. They were crying. It's been a long haul there. The first two phases of this project, as I said, the first one is nearly complete. Well, it's got a temporary certificate of occupancy so people can start moving in, and they're going to start working on their second phase. We're also deploying a wide range of housing supports to stabilize residents in their need right now. In 2022, for example, we used ARPA funds, this is federal funds, to help us recover, or help us speedily recover from COVID and the pandemic, to launch a rental assistance program for residents. We helped them with overdue rent, provided financial supports during housing searches, and covered expenses that can make or break your access to housing, like security deposits. By its end in 2024, it was Somerville's largest and most successful rental assistance program, and the most flexible and robust program of its kind in Massachusetts. To keep this going, our Office of Housing Stability is partnering with two of our nonprofits here in Somerville, the Somerville Homeless Coalition and CAS, to create a new version of the program to continue that work. As of June 2025, we have put more than $5.6 million into direct rental assistance, serving 892 people across 677 households. As we build and preserve housing units, we need to ensure access for the people who need them most. Our inclusionary housing program is one of the strongest tools we have for that. Any new building with 4 or more units must set aside at least 20% as affordable. Since 2021, Somerville has added nearly 3,000 new housing units, and nearly 500 of them are affordable because of this policy. We also need to ensure units that fit people's needs. So in addition to doing things like making sure we build family-sized units, we've also made housing for older adults a top priority. The average Social Security monthly payment is $2,000. Meanwhile, the median rent for an apartment in Somerville is $3,423 a month. That doesn't add up. Given the gap between escalating rents and the fixed income of many older adults, it was clear that additional resources and creative thinking were needed to prevent displacement. With Senator Pat Jalen's support in securing state funding, we launched an older adults bridge pilot program. Last year, it kept 8 seniors in their home who otherwise would have been displaced. Because of that success, the state is now set to more than double funding to $220,000 a year, pending revenue review. Also, our municipal voucher program is another success story. In partnership, again, with some nonprofits, CAS and the Cambridge Housing Authority, this program provides rental assistance for families with extremely low income who aren't eligible for federal or state support, with a focus on families with children in the Somerville public schools. We've already enrolled 30 families, and they pay no more than 30% of their income towards rent, with help also provided for security deposits and other stabilization services. It has taken intensive staff work from both the cities and our schools to make this program a success. And the photo you see here is a couple of our very friendly Office of Housing Stability staff who are doing this work. While we build housing, I've also directed staff to actively advocate for greater tenant protections in order to help keep tenants in their homes, and our advocacy has paid off. We helped pass the Affordable Homes Act this summer, which seals certain eviction cases, and we've already holding workshops so tenants know their rights. We fought for access to council legislation, securing $2.5 million in state funding to expand tenant legal representation at the local level statewide. And here in Somerville, we've taken the lead by contracting with 2 local agencies to provide that support directly. We built a statewide coalition to push for a real estate transfer fee on luxury sales. I've testified in support of this fee at the State House this month. It could bring in, and I have for like 6 years every year, it could bring in $6 to $10 million a year for affordable housing here. And we've advanced the rent stabilization home rule petition at the state legislature, which was recommended by my anti-displacement task force. That petition would cap rent hikes at 5% and add some eviction protections. So what does this all look like, these total investments? We've invested in a historic level of funding to advance housing affordability and stability goals. A total of roughly $62 million in 3 years. In the current economic climate, it could be tough to keep that pace up, meaning creative approaches will continue to be important. We're able to do this work really because of you. We're fortunate to have a community that wants to take on the housing crisis. I do want to note that the way I see this, and people over the years have heard me use the metaphor about the coin, and there's 2 sides to a coin when it comes to affordability. On one side, we have the costs, which keep the rents and the mortgages and what it costs to live here. And on the other side of the coin, we have job opportunity, the ability for economic mobility. And that means to earn more money or to get into good paying jobs. So we need to make sure in Somerville that we have good jobs. We're expanding training for employment in the growing sectors like clean energy, building maintenance, and skilled trades through SCALE, which is our public schools adult learning department, and local partners. We're also helping local employers stay here. Last year, we launched the Small Business Vitality Grant that can cover up to 12 months of storefront rent. We also released a commercial leasing handbook to help local entrepreneurs find and secure spaces that work for them. When I say we're using every tool in the toolbox, I mean it. Somerville cannot solve the housing crisis alone, but we can certainly do our part. We are doing absolutely everything we can to build more housing, combat displacement, as well as our state partners. From strengthening tenant protections to expanding affordable housing to rethinking regional housing policy, we must keep going, and we will. Together we can ensure that Somerville remains a place we can all call home. To connect yourself or others you know with staff for information or assistance, there are links on this slide here, or if you want the handouts, they're certainly on the back page of this presentation. For our inclusionary housing program, you can sign up for alerts when units become available. You can also certainly ask for housing assistance. Thank you. Yeah. If you have, I can take 2 questions now, and I'll be here until the end if you have more.
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to ask about the Mystic Waterworks building.
Yeah.
I have a friend who was told to be ready to move into it over 6 months ago, and apparently it doesn't have a certificate of occupancy permit yet. So can you address that at all? What's going on, and is there any expectation that it will eventually get a certificate of occupancy?
Thank you for the question. That property is owned by the Somerville Housing Authority. Just to make a little bit of a distinction, it is not owned by the city of Somerville. They are working through some things with their developer. I talked to the executive director on Friday. She's hoping there's going to be a resolution so they can move in shortly. But it's not because the city, that's what I want to make clear, the city is not holding anything up. They're just doing some punch list items that just have not been finished at this point. So I'd like to say it could be any day now. You're welcome.
With all of the new housing, particularly the... Can you hear me better now?
If you put the microphone this way,
this
it'll
way.
fit. Yeah.
Okay. With the proposed large housing going into Davis Square, the and all of the businesses there would have to lose their place, which would eliminate some of the business revenue that we get from business taxes. How do we deal with the difference that residents now will have to pick up with the loss of that business?
So thank you for the question. So I'm going to correct some misinformation that exists out there. There is no building permit that has been filed for in terms of the 25-story conversation that the property owner is having with the community. Right now in the square, is it 4 or 5 stories? Asana one, 4 stories Asana. The Asana bill. So there is a commercial project that was permitted for that is above where Oath Pizza was and Starbucks. That was supposed to have started in 2023. Above the Burren to Dragon Pizza, there was also a project that was permitted, was supposed to start in 2023. These are all commercial. The property owner at the Oath, where the Burren is, came and talked to us and talked to me and said, hey, we're not going to build. So what is this? In 2024, they said, we're not going to build because the market has tanked, so we can't put any commercial in there. They said, we're thinking about housing. And I said, well, the community just went through a 2-year process to build this community. Please do not submit a permit for anything, but have a conversation to see what the appetite is in the neighborhood. So that's what they have done. If and you all have, or many have expressed their opinion. So I just want to say it as, it's permitted for commercial. It has no zoning for housing. You all as a community would have to agree to that. Your ward counselor, can help guide you also through that. The bigger question about what do you want in your square, I guess, I don't know, Councilor Davis, the idea has been mixed-use development. That's why the commercial was there. The idea was to plan for an 18-hour day, meaning that if you have people working in the square, like Citizens Bank is not tenanted right now. The Gorin Bank, not fully tenanted. The Gorin Bank is not fully tenanted. Some of what's above Oath Pizza and Mike's, the small second floors, those are not tenanted to the full capacity. So you're seeing less daytime activity, which supports the ground floor commercial. So I use these terms is that, over in Assembly, that's a mixed-use development. They have daytime commercial that supports all the ground floor businesses. But you as a community and as a neighborhood has to decide, what you want there through your planning process. I have not dictated it. I've made it very clear. And I believe in those community meetings is that the proposed owner has made it clear too, we're just having a conversation. I was 8 years a city councilor. The number one thing that people have said to me that bothers them is we're not involved in the conversation up front. We want to know before the permits go in or things are something is foisted on us. So that's where you are in the process. You're having the conversation with how you want to see your community, your neighborhood, move forward. So that was a really long answer, but it has to be put in context. Like, what is your vision? Do you want it to be a residential square? A residential square means 5 p.m. on and weekends, right? And at one point, a few years back, the idea was mixed use because that way the square will be more vibrant. That's why the commercial was in there. But again, the property owners have to be able to get money from the banks to be able to develop. So the conversation is in your hand. I just want to be clear. No permits have been filed. You guys are at the upfront end of the conversation where most people around the city, as long as I've lived here for over 30 years, say they want to be involved in the conversation and be able to give voice to what their neighborhood looks like. Thank you. So I'm here. Later I'll take other questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Next up, I would like to welcome Ed Hardy from the 311 Constituent Services Department.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Councilor Davis. My name is Ed Hardy. I'm the Customer Experience Manager representing the Office of Constituent Services and 311. Everyone's familiar with 311, I hope? Everyone know the number? 311. I am here today and hello Ward 6. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about what 311 does, where does my call go? That's a question I get all the time, right? Where does my call go? But I am super excited to be here. I've been attending these meetings for a few years now, and now having the opportunity to speak is really exciting for me. I'm here with my colleague Alex Veras, one of our 311 agents. And I am super proud to be representing this dedicated, knowledgeable, compassionate, and dare I say, good-looking group. And the reason I say that is because if you look closely, I am not in the picture. Anyway, I'm just here to tell you a little bit about what we do, who we are. I was also super excited. I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt for a minute. I spoke with a constituent from Ward 6 earlier today, and she, when I first came in, she was asking me about some statistics, and I got to get my geek hat on, and I did pull some out. She was asking about how many phone calls we take a month. So I did a quick check, and in 2024, the 311 office, during our hours of operation, not our overnight, we do answer calls overnight, but we have an answering service for that. But we answered 68,913 telephone calls. That's 5,683 per month, 279 calls every day. That does not include our emails, our chats, our social media interactions, nor any of our one-on-one interactions that we do at the welcome desk at City Hall, which is also manned by 311 agents as well. So Somerville is a city of about 82,000 people. If you look at all our contacts, all our interactions, we speak with statistically, every man, woman, child, and probably pet in the city. But I am super excited to be representing this again, very, very capable group. 311, they have to be jacks of all trades. We support over 20 departments in the city. We have over 300 different services that we help render. And what 311 really is just a gateway to those services, right? Our mission is to provide the best, I kind of sum it up this way, the best customer or constituent experience in the Commonwealth, but we focus on things like, are we accurate in the information we provide you or exchange with you? Are we accurate with the services we render you? Are we courteous when we do interact? And is it easy to do your interactions with us? And again, we are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Doesn't mean your pothole is going to get filled at 2 o'clock in the morning, but you'll at least be able to make that request and have it done when business hours open up again. But again, our job, we are the gateway. Everything comes through us. We'll have your call logged. There'll be a record of it. You'll be given a service request number for that service request. You'll receive text updates, all that kind of good stuff, and you'll be able to track everything that's going on with your service request. We answer questions about city programs, and as I mentioned earlier, over 300 services that the city offers. City's a complex organism, right? And over 20 plus departments. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we work, and it might look a little complicated, but it's actually not. I forget the old game show, behind door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. We have 3 buckets where our calls will go. The first one, when we answer the phone call, someone like Alex will answer it, and he'll be able to help you. You'll have a question about a service, he'll answer it, and the call will be closed right then and there. Second bucket that something goes into is we can't do it, we can't fill the pothole. We're going to open that service request and dispatch to our DPW department, and they're going to take care of that for you. And the third bucket is really just for feedback. We have a saying in the city, if you have a burning building, call 911. If you have a burning question, call 311. And if you ever do just want to get something off your chest, let someone in a particular department or on a committee, anywhere within the city, you can just call in and say, I want my voice heard. We will log that ticket as well, and we'll route that to the appropriate department as well, and if they deem necessary, they'll take the appropriate action, or if you've demanded or requested action to be taken on it, you'll get a response from them as well. So again, we strongly encourage everyone to come in to call 311 with any issue you have. No longer do you need a big Rolodex full of every department or person in the city. 311 will get you to the right place every time. The city will work on your issue. You'll get your notifications as to the status of your call. Sorry, I'm not talking in here. And then last but not least, and this is right up my alley, is at the end of that service interaction, whether Alex answers your question and the call is closed on the first call, or whether it's routed to DPW, they fill the pothole and then they close the call. At the end of that interaction, you're going to receive a customer satisfaction survey. It's a very simple survey, 4 questions. Were we accurate? Were we courteous? And was it easy to do to request services from the city? I understand survey fatigue. We give these out at the close of every single service request. We strongly urge you to continue to take them because really the feedback we're getting is really what drives our continuous improvement efforts across the city. We, as I just spewed out some of the statistics, we do read that and we report on it. We measure it, we track it over time, we trend it over time, we see how we're doing it. So my job here is to encourage you to continue taking those surveys. I appreciate you taking the time. Again, it's very quick, 4 questions, and that helps drive the change throughout the city. This is Ward 6 information specifically in terms of 311 requests and the numbers. The orange line is the city and the blue line is Ward 6 in particular. Right now, statistically speaking, Ward 6 is right in line with all the other wards. There's nothing, about 14% of the call volume, about 14% of the city for the ward. So, but I'm not going to go through them in detail, but these are some of the biggest topics or the top ranking topics that Ward 6 is calling in on.
Yeah, where are the rats?
Maybe the people just aren't calling in enough about it, but anyway. But anyway, I'm available after the meeting, and I'm available for 2 questions now, I believe, right? If anyone has one?
Hi. First of all, I want to congratulate you. Ever since Mayor Joe put this thing in, it's been a wonderful service. Every time I call, you answer quickly. You take care of it. You help with the call. I've just been totally impressed with the 311 service for years. I do have a question about one kind of service, though. That.
Thank you.
With graffiti, it's a little tricky to report through you guys because we have to call. We got to try to figure out if it's on the bike path, what's the address. And I'm wondering, is there any other way we can report graffiti without calling you? Is there an app or anything like that we can use?
Well, we do have a 311 app. It's the same thing. But for something like graffiti, we do need a location. That's why you're being asked the questions, as to specifically where it is. It does need to be on public property to be reported as well. But
does the app do location? So
yes, it does.
great, I'll use that.
Yes. But I'm very glad you brought that up real quick. Talking more about statistics, it's a short time. I've been in this business a long time, and it really is quite amazing the service levels that 311 is performing. I mentioned the quantity of calls we've been getting, but of those 68,913 telephone calls that we answered during business hours, the average wait time for each one of those was under 18 seconds. And the conversation time that you have with one of our agents, like Alex Veras over here, is under 3 minutes. In fact, in 2024, the average talk time to exchange that information, time to get the information you're requesting, was 2 minutes and 48 seconds per call. So all the people you saw, all the good-looking people you saw in that first picture, they are very well versed and capable people, ready to answer your questions or to route it to the appropriate department right away. And thank you for that compliment, sir. I appreciate it. We do appreciate the feedback.
So I use the app a lot, and the potholes get filled really fast compared to other cities I've lived in. So I also love doing that. One snafu the other day, I was reporting some abandoned furniture, and the person that went to find it couldn't find it, and I called in. And they were having trouble with the description of the location. And I said, well, I took a picture. It should be clear from the picture. And the 311 operator said they don't have a picture to look at. And previous experiences, like before this year, it seemed like the person from the DPW who went out to find whatever I had reported also didn't have a picture. And sometimes not all of the data fields that are in the app get put through end to end. So I was wondering sort of how hard it would be to make that available to sort of save everyone time on both ends.
Well, I'm going to do something tonight. I'm going to refer you, the man to your right, Alex Veras, is one of our very capable 311 agents. I'd recommend you have a side conversation with him after the meeting. He'll be able to tell you more details and let you know exactly what the agents see. I know we do have a mapping software that allows us to see location. I know that in the service request in our our CRM system, we have the capability to share graphics and pictures and stuff. So if that's not being done, maybe that's a training issue on our part. We'll take care of it. But certainly speak with Alex when you get a moment, and he'll tell you exactly what needs to be reported to the agents and what they can show you. And I'm going to look into that myself. I've made notes of it here as well. Excellent. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Ed. And next up, we are going to hear from Malik Drayton from the Public Space and Urban Forestry Department.
Good evening. I'm Malik Drayton. I am the urban forestry planner, and I'm also a proud Ward 6 resident for the last 6 years. We are excited to announce the completion and publication of the Open Space and Recreation Plan. This serves as a guiding document for the next 10 years. It contains a lot of data about where we are with our parks now, how far we've come since the publication of the last OSRP, and our goals and priorities for the next 10 years. So here we have some stats on our 5 playground renovations, 6 schoolyard renovations, 11 passive park projects completed, 5 urban agriculture areas improved, and our athletic facilities. Scan this QR code on your slides to access this information. It's also available online. In more news, we've successfully published the Somerville Pollinator Action Plan, also known as SPAP. We're now working on implementing some of that thinking, which includes adding pollinator plantings at 5 parks across Conway, Hoyt Sullivan, Chucky Harris, and the Wedding Nook at Prospect Hill Park. There's also a demonstration pollinator garden at City Hall. We have also added inclusive swings and a new park. So Ken Kelly Park has been open, 217 Somerville Ave, and we have increased the amount of inclusive swings from 23% to 83%. On to trees. We have our proactive tree maintenance programs, the Young Tree Training Program, and the Parks Tree Health Program. Over the years, we have these 2 programs to proactively maintain our trees, so our young trees have the best chance at needing less maintenance in the future, reducing costs, and having a safer urban canopy, and taking care of our parks trees, which makes sure our oldest trees are staying healthy longer. Every year we continue to plant 350 trees each year, and feel free to contact trees@somervillema.gov or 311 for your trees and parks questions. I will now take any questions you have.
Do you have any sort of resource that shows what type of tree you've planted in various places? We had to take out a tree, and we'd like to put in a new tree, and I'd like to see what ones are being successful in Somerville and what kinds.
So thank you for your question. On the Somerville website, the Urban Forestry website, we have a little map every season detailing where the trees are planted and what their species are. Alternatively, you could also send us an email at trees@somervillema.gov, and also the Urban Forestry Committee meets every 3rd Thursday between 4:30 and 6:30, and we like to talk about species selection all the time, so feel free to join us.
I had a question about what looks to be called Somerville Junction Park on the path near Center Street, and it looks ready to go, ready to open up, but I was just wondering what the timeline is. There's still fencing around it.
The timeline, absolutely.
So, thank you for the question. This was asked last night. It's going to be imminent, so hopefully in the next month. There was some contaminated soil that the contractor had to address, so that's what delayed the opening. Thank you.
Let's give it up for Malik. Thank you so much. Next up, we're going to hear from Bill Fisher, who is the Director of our Office of Emergency Management.
How many people, when I first stood up and I introduced myself and said I work in the Office of Emergency Management, had any idea what that is? Oh, wow, that's a lot of people. That's actually pretty good. Have you taken a meeting before? Have you heard me talk? Cheaters. But that's common. Like a lot of people, they don't necessarily know what emergency management does. So I'm going to try to explain that as well as some of the work we've done. I've been with the city for about 15, 16 months now. And then the Deputy Director, Lauren Mahoney, she's been with us for about 6, 7 months. We are a department of a mighty 2. But wait till you see what we've accomplished. We're actually pretty proud of it. So we're going to do a lot more. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So what is emergency management? So if you leave your deputy alone with PowerPoint, this is what happens. But go ahead. So a lot of words are going to come up here. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but the one at the end that comes up in green, anytime now. I'm surprised we didn't put music with this. Here it comes. Community focus. So that's the most important piece for us. This is something that we don't do for you. I mean, we kind of do that, but we want to do it with you. Because everyone comes to an emergency in a different place. And I've been asked 1,000 times, what is an emergency? Well, when it comes to emergency management, we're really thinking about disasters like hurricanes, tornadoes, and other things. But we also deal with fires, anything where people are affected. Someone might say, like, is it like a first alarm or a third alarm fire? I don't care. Let me know how many people are affected and how. That's what I care about. And that's where we come into the equation. So go to the next one. So when we look at emergency management, what is emergency management and what is not emergency management? Emergency management is a local responsibility. So, we're a home rule state, so everything is local. But also emergency management is the responsibility of the city and the city administration to provide for emergency preparedness and emergency response in all aspects. Now, do we have partners? Sure. We have the state in the form of MEMA, the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, and then we have FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, that we can get assistance from. However, we've never necessarily counted on them entirely. We want to be self-resilient as much as possible, and that unfortunately has never been more true than right now, where there's a lot of uncertainty on how much assistance we would get from the federal government if something were to happen. The good news is we've been building the program like we would have to deal with it on our own and hoping the assistance would be there, so we've been trying to prepare that way. So we're focused on all hazards. The thing is we do look at a lot of different emergencies and how they may affect people to try to make you as resilient as possible. But as it turns out, it doesn't always matter if you're affected by a tornado or a hurricane or flooding or all kinds of things. You're affected. And so we look at the critical infrastructure, what we like to call lifelines, like food, water, shelter, power, internet, all those things we kind of take for granted a lot of times until they're gone. And so we want to look at how the people are using those and make sure that we're supporting and planning for if there's any outages and people can't meet their basic needs, and how are we assisting in those areas. The way emergency management works is it's a cycle. So we look at preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation, and that just repeats. It's a big circle. Now, we like to get ahead of it and decide which on-ramp we're going to get onto that sucker and say, we want to get on a preparedness or probably mitigation too. So mitigation is like looking at the situation, having all the data, and figuring out things we can do so that impacts aren't as great if something were to happen. Probably the best example is flooding. If we have an area that commonly floods, we want to look at why is it flooding and see if there's things we can do to make it flood less. And so we'd like to get on those. Sometimes if we don't prepare well or we get surprised by something, life kicks us on the on-ramp for response, and we have to scramble a little bit. Now, this is one of the reasons why we do an all-hazards approach, because if we have a more generalized all-hazards approach, we can apply it to that situation until we can catch up and get more specifics in the response. And we start out with protecting lives. It's always about lives first, and then we look at protecting infrastructure and the economy, but it does all tie together in this day and age. Obviously, we look at the human life, but how your life is lived and your experience is based on things like infrastructure, because a lot of your critical needs come from the infrastructure as well as from the economy of the city itself. So we look at that big picture. We also look at the environment as well. It's not on the list, but we look at that as well. What is emergency management not? It's not just FEMA's job. Now, people hear about FEMA all the time. If I said, what's FEMA, people might know. I don't know if I do, emergency management, but it's not just their job. As a matter of fact, again, like I started out with, it's our job, and that's why we're here to do that. It's not a one-size-fits-all model. We're going to talk about some incidents that happened over the summer, some fires, and I'm going to give some examples. But again, you can't just give it carte blanche and say, we're going to respond to everyone in this exact same way every time. Nobody is the same. And so, it's funny, I talk about this a lot of times. I've heard for a number of years, it's like, okay, so we have the average normal people, and then we have the people with, these assistive needs. As I get older, I can't find the normal people. I don't know where they are. They must be on an island somewhere. They all went to live there. So everyone is different. Everyone brings something to the table, and we need to work with them to understand that, to make everything stronger in the long run. It's not just limited to storms. I know I talked about storms, but there's all kinds of things that could happen. There could be, civil unrest. There could be cyber attacks. That's the big thing now, is that we depend on the network infrastructure to do a lot of things. Probably if you looked at it, even I would be surprised the number of things that actually function just because they're on a network. And if they go down, all of a sudden they don't work. And so we look at that as well. It's not a reactive only. It takes planning, coordination ahead of the disaster. And so if I were to give you an actual definition of what I thought emergency management was, we are a coordinated body. We take all the unbelievable services that these great city departments do here, and we figure out how best they can assist doing what they normally do during a disaster. And that also includes people outside of the city, our external partners, so that we can work together to make sure that they do the things they do, but during a disaster collaboratively. So we're kind of that collaborative body. So head next. So one of the first things I did when I got here, because I truly, truly believe in this, is I established a mission statement. I don't think you can do anything unless you know why you're doing it. The why is the most important thing. The why you're doing it, and then so that's your guiding force. So I rewrote this when I got here, and the mission statement right now for the Somerville Office of Emergency Management is to reduce the impacts of disasters together through a whole community approach to ensure everyone, regardless of background or circumstance, has access to resources and support they need to recover and thrive. That is our guiding force for this entire program and everything we're doing. We have a city website, so you can go and get all kinds of information there. We're also on Facebook. I encourage you to, I don't know what it's called, sign up, follow, that's the word. You can tell I don't do the Facebook. I'm going to give a plug to our community communications and engagement department. They do our Facebook for us. I mean, I contribute the information, but it would look horrible if I did it. But it looks really good now. And we're going to post lots of information on there, depending on maybe what season we're in, some preparedness information, or if something's happening. We have Tropical Storm Jerry that's out in the ocean. Thankfully, it's going to curve and stay right away from us. But we watch those things, and if we see something that might be coming our way, we'll give some information through the Facebook. It's also a great way to interact with us otherwise. So please, we want to get our likes up or follows, whatever they are. So here's some of the things we've accomplished over the last 15 months. We've done some training. So we started out with the city staff to pilot these trainings. So one of the trainings is FEMA's Until Help Arrives. This is a really fun training. It is basically, if you have an emergency, from the time the emergency happens until the first police car or fire truck arrives, what do? It's not necessarily a CPR class. It's not necessarily a first aid class, although it has some elements in there. It's all the other stuff that I think I've taken these classes in the past, and I left and I was like, this information is great, but what's the other stuff? How do I act? How do I call 911? All kinds of things. Great class, very well received. We're going to be trying to roll this out into the community soon. We're going to hopefully partner with the city council, members from the ward, the at-large councils, the mayor's office, to get in the communities, because I really believe that a community is more resilient when they have the information they need to be self-resilient in some capacity, but also it's another chance to engage with you and interact with you and learn more about you so they can make sure that what we do is what you need. The other training we're doing is something called CRAZE, or Civilian Response to Active Shooter Events. I wish I didn't have to teach that class. When I started teaching that about 15 years ago, we had an active shooter event probably every 6 months to a year, and that was horrible then. Now, like today, it's like every 3 hours. It's horrible. I can't stop them from happening. I don't even know how. However, I do have the ability to provide skills. God forbid you find yourself in that situation, that gives you options on things you can do to keep yourself as safe as possible and hopefully come out in the safest outcome possible. And it's comprehensive training, goes over a bunch of things. So we hope to get that out to the community as well. As far as planning goes, we started with that preparedness side. We rewrote the comprehensive emergency management plan for the city. It's now on the mayor's desk to be signed. That is the basic plan for the city. Everything else comes off of that as an annex. The last time the plan was updated was 2015. And so we really needed to get that plan updated. We've done it. It's the most current information we have now. And some of the annexes we've done, we have the building safety and evacuation plan. When I got here, there was no exit maps in any of the city buildings. And one of the things the mayor said right off the bat, you know, we need to do this. We need to get this done. And so we hit the ground running. And we have successfully digitally mapped every city building. Again, team of 2. And we have put maps in every room in every city building. And these aren't just like, hey, we're going to print a bunch of maps and put them out there. They're like the "you are here at the mall." Every one of them is different and specific to the room you're standing in. And they have things like where you're going to go to exit, where the fire extinguishers are, where the AEDs are. And one of the things I'm really proud about is they have accessibility assistance areas. So you go into any city building, you take an elevator up, you're doing business, the building has a fire, you can't use the elevator to get down, what do? You came into the elevator, you got to get out. So obviously we have plans to try to assist people as much as possible, but we established areas on the map, and they're on every exit map, and they're colored in yellow so you can see them. Basically says go to this area, and we've supplied all this information to the fire department and police department, so when they respond to that building, they know the first place they check is these accessibility assistance areas. They go right to these areas to see if anybody needs to get out of the building that can't physically get on their own. So we've established that as well, and we're going to be doing policy and procedures and training and drills for those. Emergency alerting, we're working with communications, the police department, the fire departments for the ability to put out emergency alerts to the community when necessary and appropriate. Commodity reported distribution. If we have to give anything out, we have plans in place how that whole operation looks. Like if we had E. coli in the water for whatever reason, and we had to, we gave a water boil order, and then we said, you know what, we're going to give out some water to the community for the next 2 days. We already know where it's going to be, how it's going to be set up, everything so that it just runs seamlessly, so we can just reach out to the partners from the DPW, the police department, and just say go, and it works. Evacuation plans. We have evacuations planned that are both local and regional. We work with our regional partners from Boston, Cambridge, Medford, to make sure that our plans for if we have a disaster that we need to evacuate, that not only do we know how to get out of the area and make it the most efficient way, but that we're not kind of working against each other. So these plans are collaborative so that, Boston doesn't send all their people to us and that sort of thing. You've probably seen on the news when they have a hurricane in Florida and they show the evacuations and the highways are like gridlock. We're trying to avoid that through good planning. I'm not saying it's necessarily not absolutely going to happen, but we're trying to get ahead of it with that. We have heat and cold emergency plans, so if there's, it gets really hot, we have cooling centers set up. In the cold season, we will set up warming centers. We have the winter warming center in collaboration with Health and Human Services to give people that are unhoused a warm place to go for the night when it's really bitter, dangerously cold out. We give them a meal. We provide them services while they're there, and that goes on every night throughout the winter. And then mass care and sheltering. If for some reason we need to have sheltering for you folks because of a disaster, we have plans in place on how we would do that, and we have people that are trained on how to open up those shelters, and we have 2 shelter trailers with all the supplies we're going to need ready to just roll out, bring to the location and unload and set them up. We've set up some operation centers. So these are just rooms that get together and people work together a lot of times during incidents, but these are for events. And so we set one up for Porch Fest. You can see down there, that's actually a mobile command post where we have all the different stakeholders working together in there to organize all the event stuff, whether it's not just emergency stuff, by the way, too. I mean, it can be emergency stuff, but a lot of times it's just event logistics, that if something comes in that is an issue or something that needs coordination, everybody's in the room, everybody hears it at the same time, and they all react, and it's seamless and it's quick. But the cool thing about that, too, is that this is a chance for all the city departments to practice together during an event. So when we do have a disaster, we can actually bring them together and do that in that scenario. And we do that for Fluff Fest and elections We've done coordinated responses. The next slide will go over details for fires, severe weather, winter warming center, and recovery resource center, which I'll talk about in the next slide. And the last thing on this slide is we've established the Somerville Emergency Management Group, which is a group of people, department heads across the city that meet monthly to discuss plans and how we're going to work together and train to respond to emergencies very well. So next slide. So quickly with this slide, this is just to reflect some of the things we've dealt with. This summer we had some fires. We had 4 fires over 53 days. So we had the Wheatland Street fire with 2 buildings and 27 people displaced. The Powder House Boulevard building, 1 building, 18 people displaced. Thurston Street, 3 buildings, 9 people displaced. And Medford Street, 1 building, 4 people displaced. This also was a great opportunity to make the point that, again, nobody's the same. So the Wheatland Street fire, we had a population that had some high needs, and we had to provide assistance. So what we did was we opened up a resource recovery center. And all this is it's hard enough when you have nothing going on to navigate going for assistance, like getting your driver's license or getting housing assistance. Now imagine you've lost everything. So instead of having them go to the resource, we brought the resources to them in one room. So we brought all the people together, and the survivors could go in the room and go table to table to table and sit down and meet with these folks and get the help they needed in one room. This is something the state does. We brought it to Somerville and did it there. The Powder House Boulevard, that was a Somerville Housing Authority building, so they got assistance from the Housing Authority. Thurston, they were a little better equipped to deal with it. They had some insurance, and they were able to deal with that. And then Medford was college students. So again, some of these things down here are the resources we were able to provide, and it really makes the point. 58 people displaced over 53 days, and the city handled it seamlessly, and we're able to provide the assistance we needed. So with that, I'll take 2 questions.
Does everybody know where they would go in case they needed emergency sheltering?
So that would depend on what's happening, so we would put that information out ahead of time. Hopefully if we knew well ahead of time. So we put that through the emergency alerts, we put it through the website.
I've been living here for 30 years. I have no idea where I would go.
So
I guess it hasn't happened.
Well, yeah, don't say that though. Don't say that, Mayor. Don't say that. No, so it really is. So some of the places we have established is some of the schools, there's other buildings, but it depends on what's going on and the location of that sort of thing. But that information would go out through the alerting system. Also, when the comprehensive emergency yeah, well, that's another point. Like we would look at, maybe an area that has power, but a lot of these buildings that we've established have generators. We make sure the shelter's not in a floodplain or that it has a generator. We try to look at that stuff ahead of time. Can it withstand high winds? That sort of thing. But when the emergency management plan comes out, the comprehensive emergency management plan that the mayor's going to sign soon, has some of those details in it. It's a public document. Feel free to grab it there.
If for some reason the internet goes down, cell phones didn't work on 9/11, and so forth, what's the best way? How would you be communicating with people? Would we be going back to like literally AM radio?
Well, yeah. So the question was if internet went down and the cell phones went down, what's the best way? Yeah, I think they always still, I advocate, when we teach people how to build kits, we advocate for having batteries and an AM radio, that sort of thing. But if we have something going on, we're not opposed. We have volunteers, we have the police department, fire department, we may go door to door and talk to people directly. But that's a great question. That's something that, I think about all the time. How are we making that communication? But I think that starts with us making these steps to get into the community more and talk with you folks to understand how to best get to you. And then we can build those plans around that sort of thing. So, great question. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill. And next up, I would like to welcome Deputy Chief Donovan from Somerville Police Department.
My name is Jim Donovan, Deputy Chief of the Police Department. I've been with the Police Department going on my 25th year. I'm in charge of patrol operations, which is the men and women you see in uniform, as well as other duties that have been assigned to me by the chief. In the back row, I have Captain Sheehan. I introduced him earlier today. He's actually in charge of all just patrol, the men and women you see in uniform, and he's also stationed in Teal Square, my old office. I loved being there. Stop in there someday, he will buy coffee. So, just to start out, Cumberland Farms only, $1, right? He said it's the most consistent coffee. It's the cheapest. Next slide, please. So these are some crime stats we're going to provide you tonight. Citywide on the left, you see a 9% increase in crime over the last year. That is almost solely attributed to larcenies at Assembly Row, shoplifting, almost solely. It is concerning to us. We have placed some resources down there, but what we've also learned is that there was a period of time where our retailers were not reporting thefts to the police department, and that's changed over time. So we are seeing an increase in reporting of thefts down at Assembly Row, and I have a working group. I organize a working group with the retailers, the loss prevention officers that work with all the retailers down there. We meet once a month to go over what the trends are at Assembly Row, and crime analyst is on that call as well. At least once a month we meet over Zoom and sometimes in person. On the right-hand side, you see Ward 6 crime. That's your ward, obviously. We saw a 9% decrease over the last year. Although we did see increases in aggravated assaults, up 5, beanies, and motor vehicle. Don't be alarmed by the 5. When you look at the crime stats for the year, it's a very, very small incremental number. As far as decreases, we see burglaries were down by 15, and larcenies are down 9. What do we do when we see crime spikes? You see the bottom there below. Area cars are deployed based on patterns, hotspots, repeat incidents, and feedback from the community. We do have 2 crime analysts who work full-time with us. They are data geeks, like I think Bill Ed had said. Meredith Willis is phenomenal. Mike Barone is our other crime analyst. They're terrific. They tell us everything that's going on in the city by the numbers, and we deploy our resources based on those numbers. Officers are made aware of these patterns and hotspots through bulletins. Our crime analysts also put up bulletins, which we go over at every roll call. We have a roll call in the morning at 7:45, one at 3:45 in the afternoon, and one at 11:45 at night before midnight. At those roll calls, we go over deployment. We go over where the officers should be spending most of their time, and as well as hotspots that we give through the bulletin. On the third bulletin down there, again, continue to increase residents' awareness of crime and crime prevention methods. We do put out PSAs on our social media accounts, and we ask the people follow us. Next slide, please. Bill obviously doesn't have teenagers. Domestic violence. The mayor reached out to us this year, and she wanted a domestic violence slide this year. She felt as though it is important. It is important to give this information out to our residents. Citywide, domestic violence decreased by 14 incidents over a year. Citywide domestic violence this year is also lower than the 5-year average. If you look at Ward 6, we saw a decrease by 1 incident. Again, a small number, but again, Ward 6 domestic violence this year is lower than it has been than the 5-year average. At the bottom there is our family service contacts. A civilian victim witness advocate, Maureen DiPaolo. That's her phone number and her extension, 7279. It's her email address, and we do have Sergeant Devin Schneider assigned to that unit as well as 2 dedicated detectives to family services. They do domestic violence. They also do, our sex crimes and things like that. Warm Brother strategy. Chief Benford recognized that during the summer months, we do see more people out in the community. We do see an increase in crime. And so to address this increase in crime over the warm weather months, we use objectives such as identifying problems and working collaboratively towards creative solutions. Chief Benford formed a working group with Davis Square residents before the summertime and came up with a deployment strategy that they had agreed on that they thought the community would like. We identify resources, we target locations based on data, again, using our crime analysts, and we deploy additional resources to address concerns per capacity between July 1st and September 30th. So between July 1st and September 30th, we identified locations we thought would need some extra attention by the police department. One being Davis Square. The second being the central part of Somerville, Somerville High School, and the Union Square area. And the third being East Somerville. Much larger area, we dedicated more cars to that area because of the size of the area, which was the Healy School, Mystic Housing Development, Temple Street, Lower Broadway, and Assembly Row. What did we do when we dedicate those resources? Well, if you see down below, from July 1st to September 7th, we had 1,399 business contacts, 1,286 direct patrols, and 584 park walk and talks. What are they? The terms that we use in policing that I know that Captain Sheehan knows, business contact, citizen or youth contact, it's a very simple thing. You stop in the street, either you park in your car, you get out to get coffee, you start a conversation with a citizen or a business owner. Business contact, very brief, but this year we saw a 344% increase in our business and citizen contacts. Directed patrols, a little more intense. Officers, pull into an area, get out of their vehicles, spend a small amount of time in that area. 1,286 directed patrols in that time frame of July 1st to September 7th, 76% increase from the same period last year. The big one here to talk about is our Park Walk and Talks. This was instituted by Chief Holloway a few years ago, and he brought this in from Florida, and we really adopted it. What that is the officers are dedicated to get out of their car for 20 to 30 minutes and walk a certain area and interact with the public. We saw a 196% increase in our Park Walk and Talks for that same time period this year. Next slide. Some things that we're doing as a police department to be more integrated in our community. If you see the top part there, National Night Out. Every community has National Night Out. We used to have it a number of years ago. When we had COVID, we got away from it, and we brought it back last year. It's been very, very successful. We set up at Trump Field. We have representatives from all the city departments there. We have people from the business community there, and we have all kinds of events for the kids. This year, we gave out backpacks to every child that came to the National Night Out. We had bouncy houses. We had touch a truck. We had a dunk tank. Was anyone there this year? That was your last opportunity to dunk me. I will not be in the dunk tank anymore. I had knee surgery 2 weeks ago. I have a bad back. I will not be in the dunk tank. The Junior Police Academy, we did this years ago again. We started back last year. We had really success with it last year. We had 30 5th through 8th graders in a simulated police academy. It wasn't really a police academy like that I went through, like Captain Sheehan went through. It was more of a demonstration. The students were taught CPR, first aid. The state police brought out their canine. They brought out their horses. We had a drone demonstration. We also had a dive demonstration by the state police at the Kennedy Pool. The children that were able to see the dive officers put all their gear on, go underwater, a number of different things they did this year. Unfortunately, this year, one thing we did last year we couldn't do this year is we took everyone to a Red Sox game with a parent or a sibling. This year, the Red Sox were kind of behind on getting us the tickets, so the best we could do is we gave tickets to every child, and we gave them 2 tickets for a family member or a parent. Online safety classes, we realize, with social media, everything that goes along, the good stuff with it, but a lot of bad stuff with it. So we set up an online class with Somerville Public Schools. It was really successful. We're going to be doing it again this year. Detectives taught online safety class at the 8th graders at the Winter Hill Community School. We had separate classes in Spanish and Portuguese taught by detectives. And last year was the 911 awareness. It was just targeting certain parts of our community that sometimes were alienated, may not know how to use a 911 system. At the bottom there, you'll see the Asian Tea Party. Captain Sheehan actually met with a group of our Asian residents and our 911 operators, and it's described what 911 is, how to contact us, what constitutes a 911 call, what doesn't context a 911 call. At the bottom there, you'll see that we did the same thing with our Brazilian community. Priorities for the future, really quickly. Implementation of a pilot co-response with our core unit. Our core unit's a mental health outreach and recovery unit. We have clinical social workers as well as recovery coaches working with our community, working with some of our unhoused, but a lot of people suffering from mental illness. Second is the PSFA manager to implement the public safety for all. Our Racial and Social Justice Department did the public safety survey this year, and to implement the recommendations out of that public safety survey, the city has hired a PSFA manager. Some of those bullet points were specific to the police. Not all of them, but some. And we're going to be working with them to implement those recommendations. And the last part there is Chief Benefit is really high on us. It's a really good opportunity. We'd really like to create a community policing command within the SPD. That would be a command level person in charge of all community outreach, community engagements, and our neighborhood policing. We would like to bring some neighborhood policing back to Somerville. At one time we had a ward officer for every ward. We got away from that with staffing shortages. We would like to get back to that baseline. And the last slide here is we are hiring. Like everyone in the world, we're having difficulty hiring. As soon as we hire, we have retirees, we have injuries, we have people actually changing careers from law enforcement to other careers. So we are hiring. Right now we have 3 officers reporting to the academy next week. We have 4 more hopefully going in January, and we are starting to hire 2 more right now that hopefully will come from a university or a municipal setting. We'll already have their police academy and can join us right away. If we can get those officers, they'll be on the street in 8 weeks, as opposed to the hiring process is usually a year for a police officer. From vetting them to backgrounds, to physicals, to academies, to field training, it's a year before we get somebody. So it's a long process. Those are some of our contact numbers. Take a picture if you want. I am not leaving until all the questions are answered. Myself and Captain Sheehan will be here. Even if they kick us out, we'll be on the sidewalk answering questions.
Two questions. We have time for 2 questions.
Hi. In prior years, you used to have a bike patrol. Up there, is that better? In prior years, you had a bike patrol, and I'm wondering if you ever bring that back, because it was a very effective way to deter crime and give confidence to people out on the streets.
Great question. If no one heard her question, she wants to know if we're going to reinstitute a mountain bike patrol. That is part of the community policing. So our community police officers, however many we can staff in that unit, will be on foot and they'll be on bikes. They'll be visible. We have that bike path now that runs from Cambridge all the way to Boston. I took it about a month ago. I was at Somerville High School. I walked all the way to Cambridge. It's phenomenal. Very hard to police though, because the entrance ways, there could be maybe half a mile or 3/4 of a mile between the entrances. So it's really helpful to have mountain bikes on that. And if you've used that bike path at all, or the community path, like say not bike path, community path, if you've used that, I'm not a cyclist anymore, but some of the cyclists are using electric bikes. They're flying down there. We have our elderly. We have people walking their families. We really could use some presence down there.
Hi, thank you so much.
Hi.
Do you bring social workers with you on calls for people who seem to be suffering from a mental condition?
Great question. So that is the pilot program we're hoping to pilot in the spring. We currently do not do that. Cambridge does a version of that. We're hoping to do that in conjunction with our core unit. We're going to pilot it. It's going to be a slow process. We're going to make sure we do it right, make sure we do it safely. But yes, we are planning on piloting that in the spring.
Next up, we are going to hear from Brad Rawson, who's the director of our mobility department.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging with us. My name is Brad Rawson. I'm a Somerville resident, and I serve our great city as Director of Mobility in the Mayor's Community Development Office. We like to use these meetings to help everybody understand how complex this organism is of municipal government. Ed Hardy from our constituent service was talking about it. So the quick summary of our department: imagine 85 people who do a variety of development-related work. 30 of them, no exaggeration, affordable housing specialists. Our 2 division heads who lead the affordable housing teams are here, Ellen Schachter and Lisa Davidson. We have 10 or 12 planning, zoning, permitting, architecture specialists. Our director, Dan Bartman, is here. We have 10, 12 economic development specialists who do small business, who do real estate development, workforce development. Dana Whiteside, our deputy director of economic development, is here. You get the picture. You met Malik from our public space and urban forestry group. That's, 7 or 8 urban foresters, landscape architects, parks project managers. So the little team of 8 that I lead is called the mobility division. We do a variety of transportation work, and as many of the department heads and speakers have talked about, it all really happens with an interdepartmental partnership. So I want to give special shout outs to many of my colleagues in our engineering division, people like Dan, people like Stephanie, people like Kevin, and so many others. Mobility does policy, we do community engagement work, we do design work, financing, we do project design, a little bit of implementation, and a lot of evaluation. So what does an average day or year look like, I guess, for all of these teams that work on our Safe Streets agenda? We are proud that we are able to rebuild approximately 3 miles of repaved streets per year, 2 miles of rebuilt accessible sidewalks per year. We are installing more than 60, often even more than 100 traffic calming features per year. And all of this work about changing the built environment to improve street safety for our residents is really rooted in community engagement and community process. So we actually do about 100 in-person events per year just on the little team of 8 that I'm a part of. Let me tell you a quick story and give you an example. Last Saturday, you would think that City Hall workers maybe aren't working. Well, our little team of 8 was covering not 1, not 2, but 3 community engagement events. We were out tabling 8-hour shifts, 4-hour shifts, because not everybody in our community is able to come to a night meeting like this one. We want to meet people where they are at. You've heard that as a theme from department after department tonight. So we're trying to do the work the right way and build a broad coalition for Somerville's Safe Streets work.
Why is this important? It's because you tell us it is. The mayor talked about this over and over in her remarks about housing. The Somerville residents have told us year after year that they're sick and tired of feeling threatened on their streets by speeding vehicles, by big dangerous trucks with big blind spots, with distracted drivers, and increasingly, as Deputy Chief Donovan said, making sure that we are also thoughtful about micro-mobility, about e-bikes, about motor scooters. Built environment changes are the kinds of things that save lives on our streets. So let's move on here for a quick second. There's a lot of change. Transportation is an area of public policy that can arouse passions. We lean into this conversation. We acknowledge it. It can be uncomfortable and there can be trade-offs. But like my colleague Bill from our Emergency Management Office, we are public safety professionals. Like Chief Charlie Breen, we are public safety professionals, and our mandate is to save lives on our streets. Are we being successful? This is a 10-year graph that illustrates that, yes, we are. Understanding the mechanics of what is changing is a part of our work. So if you look back over a decade or so, you'll see we're at like 60 or even 50% of reported crashes going back to 2015, 2016. That's a really impressive trend line. Some of it is luck. Some of it is skill. Some of it is intentional public policy that this community has worked on together over time, reducing speed limits, working through, believe it or not, the legislature on Beacon Hill, getting the right to actually reduce speed limits to slow, safe 20-mile-per-hour limits. But a lot of it is about physical traffic calming, and we'll talk about that in another moment. We put these critical data points all on one slide. We know the bottom two lines are not readable, so if we don't mind going to the next slide, please. You'll see a little bit more detail on the crashes that we care about. Fender benders are an inconvenience, but the things that we're really interested in preventing are life-altering injuries. Generally, that happens when a person is involved in a crash who is outside of a car, somebody who is walking, wheeling, using a wheeled mobility assistance device like a scooter or a walker or a wheelchair or a stroller, or a bike. So crashes involving non-motorists is the orange line down below. Again, you see about 50 reported per year a decade ago, a little bit below that 9 this year. These are relatively small changes, but as Deputy Chief Donovan talked about, we track them. We talk about them every week, every month, every quarter, and every year. Definitely want to call your attention to the upper line, which is injury crashes, and this is a really encouraging number. If we were tracking at about 150 injury crashes per year a decade ago, and we're at 100 now, you all can do the math. This is a really substantial 40-50% decrease over time. We got a lot of work to do. One is too many. Are any of you remembering, an election season, 4 years ago when our neighbor Leah Zalman was taken from us at the corner of College and Kidder? Did anybody know Leah or her family? I didn't know Leah, but I met with her. I met with some of her survivors and family members. These are real stories. These are real human stories, and I think transportation is funny in that it can sometimes pit neighbor against neighbor. Oh, parking versus bike lanes. Look, folks, at the end of the day, we just want everybody to get home in one piece. That is job number one. So let's reach for empathy in those moments where it feels like this is a divisive us versus them discussion. Next slide, please. So as Deputy Chief Donovan would tell you, as Captain Sheehan would tell you, enforcement is treating the symptom rather than cause. We have limited resources. We are unable to be everywhere. There are real and legitimate concerns about over-policing in some communities. The better way to save lives and keep people safe on our streets is by designing streets that really can't be driven fast at unsafe rates. This is why you see speed humps around the Brown School on Kidder Avenue. This is why you see, the raised crosswalks on Holland Street. These are the things that work 24/7 and are not dependent on signs, on enforcement, etc. In years past, I would come to a meeting like this and we'd be kind of clutching at straws and we would say, well, to reduce vehicle speeds, we were able to go out and paint some lines on a street or maybe hang some signs. But what this graph shows is that you and our elected officials, people like Lance Davis, Jake Wilson, and so many of their colleagues on the council have asked us to actually scale up a physical traffic calming program. And so you see back, again, a decade ago, we were building 5 or 10 raised crosswalks per year. Now we're doing more than 100. This is in direct response to resident feedback, and it is an evidence-based tool. Every city in North America is struggling with a crisis of traffic violence, and every city in North America is working to do work like this. And yet, local governments are complex. You think about design work, you think about community engagement and notification work, you think about something as mundane as procurement, getting a contractor out to build speed humps. We had one on site yesterday, actually, working over in our Spring Hill neighborhood, and it takes more time, more departments, more process steps than you would expect to get the right specification, the right contractor, the right schedule, the right quality control. So there's just a lot of city staff who work on these issues, and we work tirelessly to try to keep this trend line going. However, we also work tirelessly with our operations partner, Chief Breen and his team, need to make sure that their response times can be met, that their apparatus can get around sharp corners when we build narrower crosswalks. So again, we just think it's important out of respect to acknowledge this. Plenty of people who go through the Spring Hill neighborhood by the Somerville Museum today would say, oh my goodness, how do trash trucks get through here? How do emergency vehicles get through here? This is a constant fine-tuning effort that our work in mobility, engineering, fire, DPW, and elsewhere that we're all working together on. We don't have it all figured out. We lean into the humility of this moment, but say that these are evidence-based tools, and we're committed to delivering them while we still do everything else that our streets are expected to accomplish. So, if you want to learn more, there's a million different ways. We really pride ourselves on community engagement. I talked about our analog, old school, face-to-face contacts. We have a strong digital presence on all this work. We have an online map that you can surf through and see if you're, part of the Lexington Avenue neighborhood who have been advocating for traffic calming in your neighborhood around Lexington Park. You'll see that Lexington is, called out here. If you live near Hodgkins and Holland Street and Paulina Street, that's on the speed hump schedule. You can toggle these on and off and see where we've been and see where we're going. We have a traffic calming webpage that describes to you all the different ways that you can raise up your voices. So let me just list off a few. Sidebar conversations in a meeting like this. That counts. You'll get into the pipeline. Calling 311, talking to Alex and Ed and their colleagues, that gets to our pipeline. We answer about 500 of those 311 calls per year, and many of them, about 200, are requests for traffic calming. It's incredible how much demand there is. You can work through your ward counselors and your at-large counselors. You can email the mayor's address, and those things reach our staff and get into our pipeline. So there's a million ways to advocate or to learn more. One thing we want to talk about, Christine mentioned this at the top, there's a lot of newsletters in Somerville. Newsletter fatigue can be real, but we have a good one. Please sign up for it if you're not. Part of the reason ours is good is it's not just like academic articles talking about traffic calming in Washington, D.C. or Seattle or anything like that. It's actually just pushing people to engagement opportunities, surveys, meetings, pop-up events. Just yesterday, some of our staff were out tabling at a bus stop in our Gilman Square neighborhood, just trying to catch people who might not otherwise come to a meeting. So again, please do join in. Here's a few flyers. You can find all of these pieces of information. If you've got the printouts, these are all linked on the bottom. We talked about the community path a minute ago. We're in the midst of a community engagement process to figure out how we can take this incredible community asset and make it even better. It's perhaps a little bit overloved, right? Longtime advocates who fought the good fight, Ron Newman among them, often said, hey, a 10-foot wide path in a dense urban environment like Somerville is not going to be wide enough. We amplified that advocacy at the staff level, and Mayor, you remember it. Despite our efforts, we lost that fight. They were really serious about canceling the green line and the community path, and one of the ways that they saved money at the state level was to have a 10-foot instead of a 14-foot path. We are now dealing with the consequences, but it's also at this exact moment where micromobility, e-scooters, affordable gas-powered mopeds are everywhere. And so the number of 311s that we get in terms of people being really concerned about this kind of speed and safety issues are really bothering us. So we're doing a community engagement process. Our engineers and designers are working on signage packages. Believe it or not, even like traffic calming for bikes on the path. Every city in North America is struggling with a version of this. And I want folks to know that Somerville is not unique. Like, there's nothing deficient or wrong with our community or with our region. We are constantly talking with Vancouver, British Columbia, Chicago, Illinois, Austin, Texas. Everybody's building, shared use paths like this, and everybody's dealing with this kind of like overloved dynamic. How can we actually keep people safe? So fill out a survey. We've got like 800 responses so far. It's going to take our staff a long time to code them all, but that's going to help us build momentum for when we install new signage, when we install speed humps, whatever other traffic calming treatments are appropriate out there. We're reconstructing a couple of streets here. They're not in Ward 6 per se, but folks, remember, we're just 4 square miles, 80,000 people. They're all our streets, even if our arbitrary ward-based political boundaries say that Western Pearl Street is not Ward 6 or Broadway Magoon is not Ward 6. We all know and love these squares and these neighborhoods. So if you want to get plugged in, there's a million ways to do so. I hope this has been helpful. I'll be happy to answer a couple of questions. Stick around all night. And just want to say thank you all for being involved in Somerville's local democracy.
Hi, can you tell us a little bit about the status of Highland Avenue repaving and reconstruction?
Sure, Ron. Thanks a lot. So I'll try to keep this answer bite-sized, but folks may remember that Highland Ave was getting really, really bad in terms of its pavement condition. We had been doing a big sewer project up in our Spring Hill area near City Hall and the high school and the library. And at the time, we thought we might be able to do all the sewer work and then come back and build the Highland Avenue of the future. Wider sidewalks, safe bike facilities, traffic calming. Financial conditions changed. We weren't able to do that, and we're still not able to do that. So right now, the best we've been able to do is the little Band-Aid paving that you see on that eastern section of Highland Avenue. We have long-range safety plans that do commit the city to having a safe Highland Avenue, which we define in our official plans as two directions of bike travel separated from people driving. And yet, a quick build project that is just a bunch of flex post and paint on Highland Avenue, we strongly feel would leave a smaller coalition for change than we could achieve if we actually had the money to rebuild it and have like floating bus stops, proper transit priority, accessible sidewalks, raised crosswalks to slow traffic down. So the mayor has asked our financial department, all of our related departments, to really look at our capital investment plan and figure out what is a realistic schedule for Highland Avenue of the future. We made some promises a few years ago that we've had trouble keeping. I want to give us a little bit of credit and grace, though. We are dealing with a school building crisis. We are dealing with a collapse of the regional economy, and obviously I'm going to speak kindly since I'm on camera, the turbulence of the federal government, taking away resources from cities like Somerville. We don't have the money that we used to, but we are working to provide transparency and predictability on the Highland Avenue project. I hope that's helpful.
Is it possible to extend the Band-Aid a little bit further?
That is going to be one of the tools in terms of like those short-term pavement options. Ron, thank you very much.
So you mentioned how it's really difficult in a complex government like this, that you got to do something, you got to coordinate with other people, you got to coordinate with other people. And one of the challenges I've seen over almost 30 years here in Somerville is every time you rebuild a road, 5-10 years later, that road needs to be rebuilt. And why is that? Largely it's because as we renovate houses and businesses, people dig into the concrete, they dig into the pavement. The people that put that pavement back don't put it back to the same standard. And so we feel it's especially in the bike lanes. I use these bike lanes all the time, and what used to be smooth is not smooth pretty quickly. And so when we talk about dependencies in the government, one thing the government can do to make your job easier and to make our lives better is if people dig in the pavement, require them to put the pavement back to the same standard it was.
So I think everybody got that. The microphone was performing. Thank you for the comment. Kevin, if you want to speak about the work that our engineering division does to try to coordinate private utilities, gas companies, telecom, our own city water and sewer work, I'd actually appreciate it. You're the subject expert and your team is responsible for this, working in partnership with ours. These are legitimate questions. Kevin and his team have instituted a whole bunch of process improvements these last 5 years.
Again, I'm Kevin Roach with the engineering department. Brad would let you know that I'm an expert on this, so take this to heart. So something that we try to do often when we have, wholesale paving projects that, like Brad was describing, often include curb-to-curb paving, bike facilities, new ADA compliant sidewalks. We try to coordinate with the private utilities as much as we possibly can, whether it's Verizon, Comcast, gas, buried electric. Are we burying the electric that used to be overhead before we pave? All of these things take time and cost a lot of money. We have our own project deadlines, funding deadlines that oftentimes we have to go. And, if we find out 3 or 4 years later down the line, Eversource, we need to come in and, replace an aging cast iron gas line. These are unfortunate consequences that no one likes to suffer. We do so much coordination with the private utilities as much as we can, and private developers specifically are another thing we have even less control over. Development interests in different neighborhoods change drastically over time. I've lived here for about 10 and a half years, And if you told me 10 years ago that in 10 years there are going to be 10, 20 to 30 unit buildings on Prospect Street from the Five Corners intersection to the Cambridge line, I would have told you were crazy. But those are the kind of things that change over time, and you know, we have limited ability to control the interests of private developers. However, developments of a certain size, we do require milling and overlay paving across the utility trenches, the amount that we can. We're pretty judicious about what developments of certain sizes require those. Some of the smaller utility failures that you see, broken water lines, broken sewer lines, we are, you know, again, kind of judicious about the repaving there, just because we don't want certain small failures of a homeowner's sewer lateral to end up costing them an amount of money that they can't afford to pay.
So just a quick follow-up. I was not criticizing your planning. Planning is really hard. It's the smaller things. So when I got my electrical replaced, the inspector came out and said it was done well. And when we did renovations, the inspector came out and said it was done well. When they dig and put the pavement back to do a sewer, a small thing, does the inspector come out and say it was done well, the pavement? Or do you just leave it to the contractor to say, yeah, I did it well?
So so specific question about pavement inspections when private contractors cut open the street, and who was in charge of that. So before we close out our permits, we do generally try to get around and see how certain patches are behaving, generally after a freeze and thaw cycle. With the way that the weather is changing here, now we have far more freeze thaws per winter than we were used to. I honestly think that contributes a lot to the health of a lot of these utility trenches, unfortunately. That said, we do hold our licensed drain layers to the warranty period, generally 2 years. With the amount of work that goes on in the city, are some missed? I'm sure. But you know, this is something that we're aware of, and we have changed the way that we review building permits for developments of a certain size, because we hear you, and especially those of us who live here, bike here, walk here, drive here, we all feel it, right? So message heard, and we are doing our best, I promise. Sorry, Brad.
Thank you so much to all of the presenters. It is 8:20. We have a very firm out at 8:30. The church has been so gracious to let us use the space this week, and we would like to respect their wishes. So if you have questions, please raise your hand. I will walk around with the microphone. And city staff, I would ask that you prepare yourself to answer any questions that might be given to you. So.
Question about question 2 on the election ballot about extending the term of the mayor for 4 years. Would that take effect for the new mayor we're going to elect next month, or not until 2027?
It would not be for the 2026 time period. It would be the next election. Yeah.
I have a question about sidewalks and trees that grow in the sidewalk and the roots that bubble up and make it impassable for a lot of people.
Specific question? This is a problem. Yes. Is there anything we can do about it? Yes.
Should we just let them grow like that?
So Malik, feel free to jump up. I'm happy to answer quickly just to stay on time though. So quick answer is city works on these issues. One of the ways that we've been trying to address this is by, classic 311 calls. If you see root heave, broken concrete, call 311. We'll get it inspected. Malik and the rest of the team and our public space and urban forestry team will look at it with our DPW team. If it's possible, they'll re-pour concrete. Sometimes they use asphalt. But the kind of cooler answer is that we're often using a newer product that we call FlexiPave, which is a pervious paver that allows water infiltration into the kind of the sub base there, healthier for trees. and it also responds to those freeze-thaw patterns that Kevin was talking about. So you see fewer cracks, fewer big lips that would hang up a stroller wheel, hang up a wheelchair, or even trip an able-bodied person, right? We are not yet using these tools at scale. We're doing them for our newer projects, so like Holland Street, College Avenue. If you walk up College, you'll see them but those are like the bigger construction projects. I think one of the questions is how we do this surgically all around the city. We've started experimenting with those tools, rip out the concrete, pour the flexi-pave, but we're still relatively early in this journey. But again, please use 311, like those location-based data are really helpful for our DPW and our forestry teams as we try to address those types of issues. Oh, and one last thing. Sometimes, if anybody here lives in the Liberty Ave neighborhood, you might notice that when we have legacy trees, but we have narrow, inaccessible sidewalks, a cool technique that we're starting to use is actually bump the sidewalk into the street. So imagine trading one parallel parking space for a much more pleasant, accessible path of travel, bumped around the tree, and you preserve that 80-year-old tree. That's something that we're starting to do at scale as well. So yes, this is something on our radar. I just wanted to let folks know that we're working on it.
Hi. I was wondering what it would take to move these kinds of community meetings out of a religious establishment, pun intended, into something like a public school perhaps, or any other neutral space.
I think I can actually answer that question. We, by every ward, do typically go with the Somerville Public Schools first. In this ward, there are not a ton of options, quite frankly, that are accessible and that we are able to rent out, well, reserve, and have the kind of capacity that we need for these meetings. Typically, I think the rest of the ward meetings, I believe, are all in public schools. It's just this one that we have a harder time with.
As someone who did not attend Monday night's meeting because it was in a religious sanctuary, I hope that we can come up with a better solution.
This is not so much a question as a response to my neighbor's request. You may know, other people here, that the city has acquired the building across the street. The city has acquired the former Haitian Baptist Church, the white building, right across the street. And my request to all the city people here is, wouldn't it be great if that was a community center?
Do we have any other questions? Going once? Going twice? Sold. Okay, we have reached the end of the meeting. Thank you guys all so much for coming. Please get home safe. Go Somerville.